Friends, the holidays are coming up and we're all thinking about what we're going to buy for our family and friends. Well, the Catholic Woodworker has you covered with Black Friday pricing all month long. You don't have to wait until Black Friday or Cyber Monday, and you don't have to spend those days sitting on a computer screen or going to a store to try to find the greatest deals. Go to thecatholicwoodworker.com. Check out their special Black Friday pricing all month long. It's absolutely amazing. These guys do incredible work. You know that we love them, and I think you will too. So check out thecatholicwoodworker.com for Black Friday pricing all month long. Cy Kellett, Catholic Answers. What are you doing in Iowa, in my house?
Well, I won the lottery.
Yeah.
I'm just the lucky guy. I came here for the radio station here, for the local radio. They were very gracious.
KMMK.
Yep. Then they're having their big event tonight, and so I'm speaking there.
Well, when I saw you were coming, I thought, ooh, this is going to be great. Now I can get Cy to come over and do an interview with me on somebody else's dime. Don't tell Tony I said that. But no.
Well, I'm glad you went bargain hunting for a guest.
Dude, this is a lottery win, man. This was a lottery win because you're worth every dime, man. You're worth everything. I would have brought you out here anyway. I've just enjoyed your voice and your content and the charitable yet authoritative way that you run the Catholic Answers radio show.
Oh, thank you.
You have a really good way of calming people that are, some of them are kind of in crisis. Maybe they're exploring the Catholic Church. They're freaked out.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the apologists.
But,
no, you
we'll
mean the
get
callers.
to that.
Okay, yes,
We'll get to that.
Right.
But no, just the way that you interact with people. You know, you're a guy that I think just about anybody could talk to.
I hope so. That's very nice to say, Keith. I hope so. Because it's really the only job I have. It's the only contribution I can make. And so I hope that that's the case. Thank you.
Well, it's a big one, and I think it's been awesome. And I've really just been honored to have been able to be a part of it, a couple times, and it's been amazing. But because of your role, you're sort of more of like the facilitator, the host. You don't really talk too much about your own journey, your own faith. So I would love to dig into that today a little bit, if that's okay with you.
I would love to. That's very nice. Thank you.
So tell us about how you were brought up. Were you raised Catholic? Was faith important to you?
Yeah, I was raised in old-fashioned Boston Irish Catholic family. My parents both come from Irish Catholic fathers. My grandmothers are French, Canadian, and Polish, and so that's a lot of Catholic, that's a whole lot of Catholic. And so I was a Navy brat. My father is a Navy doctor, so we moved around when we were young. But it's an old-timey thing that, at least by the time I was born, it's kind of old-timey, that Boston Irish Catholic thing. And the cuisine is not that great. I mean, there's a lot of boiled food. But the sense of family and faith is great. That part of it was good. So that's how I grew up. And I have 6 brothers and sisters. So, you move every 2 years if your dad's in the Navy. So in some ways that makes you a little bit insular. You depend on your brothers and sisters to be your friends a lot of the time. But I have good brothers and sisters. So it was fun. And it was fun growing up in the Navy. Because like Navy housing, there was, in those days, I was born in 1964. So if you were in Navy housing as a kid, there was kids everywhere. I mean, this was in the days when, 4 kids was a small family. Mm-hmm. So it was a fun way to grow up. So brought up, devoted to the faith. When you were growing up, what did you want to do with yourself? Did you have ideas of what you wanted to be when you grew up? Yeah, I think part of me, if you're like 5 years old in 1969, then you are aware of the fact of the Kennedys, Martin Luther King. You've got, you kind of have, and I saw those guys as heroes. And so I think part of me thought maybe politics, and I even when I started in college, I thought my major would be political science. So it was kind of a vague thing. I don't think I thought about getting elected or anything. I just took an interest in that. And so I suppose I kind of thought there would be some kind of something like that in my future. I was not a great student, so I didn't present as a great scholar or anything like that. So at a certain point, so the Catholic faith is in me. It's part of me. I went to the University of San Diego, which was founded as a Catholic school. You've probably heard of those before. Founded as a Catholic school,
but they're always the best.
Yeah. So, by the time I was there, it was somewhat marginalized, I would say, in its Catholic identity, but doesn't mean it's missing. Even in places where where a lot of people would roll their eyes and go, "Oh, Catholic," that doesn't mean it's not there at all. And so you can, in one way or another, you'll run into the Catholic. I remember the masses there were wonderful. I don't know, I can't remember who the priests were, or they must have been diocesan priests. But the masses there were wonderful. So the Catholic faith is there. It's part of me. But then when I got to the University of San Diego, a professor who is probably the most wild left-wing guy that you can imagine as far as a Catholic theology professor. And he gave us, we had a certain reading. This was our introduction to Catholic faith or something. It was that for 101 Catholic theology course. And one of the books that he assigned was Thomas Merton's Seven Storey Mountain. And Thomas Merton is a very romantic writer. If you're a young man and you read Seven Storey Mountain, I don't know how much you've been exposed to Thomas Merton, but there is a time when every young man that read Thomas Merton, Catholic, wanted to just go be a monk.
We read him in the seminary I went to.
You did?
Yeah.
You did? I didn't know that. So now I don't really know the currents of Catholic thought. I don't know what I'm being introduced to. I don't know, I don't know the lay of the land. It's 101, but something about Merton just grabbed me, and I wanted to study theology. And I think I also wanted to get farther away from home at the time. It was like just kind of go out. I want to do something. So I left San Diego and went to Boston College, which is where my father had gone, actually. So it's like a weird going far away from my family, but also going back to the roots kind of thing. And so I studied theology at Boston College. And there I had a conversion experience. And I was sometimes a left-wing Catholic. I was sometimes a right-wing Catholic. I was often a confused Catholic, very often a bad Catholic. But I was always Catholic after that. I knew that Jesus was God, and I knew that the church was his church. It took a while to work all that out, and I have regrets about how I worked it out. But once you have had that conversion experience, I think, and the Lord is the Lord, it's kind of hard to shake you out of it. It's not impossible, I guess. And maybe you hear people but you can't unknow what you know. So
wow, that's important. That's interesting you say that. This is important to remember, because I think people sometimes they turn away from their faith, and I'll ask them sometimes, well, did you stop believing what you believed, or are you just mad at somebody?
That's a great question. Yeah, right.
I've talked to a few people lately or whatever who would be mad about something going on in the church, the hierarchy, or their bishop did something or whatever, and they go, "That's it.
Right.
I'm leaving to become something else."
Right.
And I just had this conversation 2 days ago with somebody, and I said, "Well, what are you?" And I honestly thought, because this person was mad about something the Pope did or whatever, I thought they were going to say, "Well, I became like a state of a contest or Eastern Orthodox even, or something like that." And she was like, "I became a Nazarene." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Did everything that you believe, now all of a sudden you don't believe it's true? Like you left because you were mad the Pope wasn't teaching the faith, so
but you went to the Church of the Nazarene. Yeah.
So I think it's interesting when you said that. Like, you can't unlearn these things that you've learned, or you can't stop believing in them. But sometimes we have a hard time living it, though.
But you can. I think you can. And I did this. You can, in a certain sense, undermine it in yourself, so that you're living an immoral life. That you're not docile to God anymore. And so I think you can dull it. And so I am one of those person, I needed continual conversion experiences. But after the one at Boston College, it did kind of seem like a certain floor was set, where I suppose I could have fallen below that floor, but it was a floor not of morality or any beauty of my soul, but of I know this is true. I could do what I want, but I know this is true.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So after college, what did you end up doing?
I taught in a Catholic high school for 3 years, Severian Brothers High School outside of Boston. It's a boys' high school. Coming from Southern California, I had never been exposed to single-sex education. I had gone to a public high school myself, and I was very impressed with it. I really liked working in a Catholic high school. I really liked that it was a boys' high school. There's something about boys together, which was different than what I had experienced in a public high school. They can be, in a certain sense, goofier and more vulnerable and more honest than when you're kind of, you spend 4 years of high school as a boy. If there's girls around, strutting,
That's a good point.
4 years of like trying to make your muscles look bigger than, like I'm actually, and there's a way I was really impressed with what a boys' high school is, what it does. And it's not perfect, of course. Everything is kind of mediocre in this world, but it was a good experience for me. I loved it. And I loved, I taught, because I had gotten a degree in Catholic theology at Boston College, I taught religion to boys. Yeah.
So you became a teacher, but you were only there 3 years. Did you do something different, like teaching-wise, or just go to a different school?
No, I had a very clear moment of, if you're going to do this, you got to get good at it, because I knew I wasn't good at it. Like there's a certain kind of naivete where you can be good for students as a neophyte who doesn't really know or hasn't really committed to knowing his craft. But if teaching is a craft, it's and I knew, look, either get in or get out. And in my heart, I knew get out. And I can tell you why that happened. I can tell you what happened to me is I got to do retreats with the boys. So somehow I got assigned to the team that did the sophomore retreats. There were different retreats each year, and the senior retreats. So, I wasn't that much older than the seniors. I was like 4 or 5 years older than they were. And one of the retreats that seniors got to do was you could pick this, you had to do a retreat every year. But one of the ones that they could do was to go to the Catholic Worker House in Boston and stay at the Catholic Worker House for a weekend, serve the homeless, and experience life on the street a little bit. And the boys got a lot out of it. I was utterly smitten with it. I was like, that's where I belong. So I left to go live at the Catholic Worker House in Boston.
Really?
Yeah. We went on these retreats, and I was supposed to be helping them. And it was just so clear to me, go do this.
And you probably never saw that coming, did you?
No, that wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have that plan. No. By that point, I'm a huge fan of Walker Percy. I love reading. I've been reading novels since I was a kid. I love the novel as an art form, and I had become completely smitten with the Catholic novelist Walker Percy. I wanted to write. I knew that I was writing all the time. I wanted to, but to be at the Catholic Worker House, it just grabbed me.
So what did you do there? What was that like?
Okay, so you basically mornings you serve meals to homeless men on the street. It does. There can be a kind of racial divide in the way that these things work out. That often on the street, white people won't go where black people will go, and black people won't go where white people will go. And I don't know if that's a residue of prison life or what it is. But so we were kind of. It was in a black neighborhood. It was one of those times when things were changing, and it was like. It was this weird neighborhood where it was all this. People who had been there forever, and then gay couples were moving in and gentrifying it. It was that, like that happens in these urban neighborhoods.
In a lot of cities.
Yeah. So, but our clientele was black clientele, and I had heard Maya Angelou speak twice when I was in college. And one time somebody said to Maya Angelou at one of these talks that she gave at Boston College, it was kind of a white kid question of, I'd like to, help with this racism thing that, of course, is a big part of Maya Angelou's story. And I don't remember how the question was asked, and Maya Angelou was a very impressive person. I really liked her very much. And she said, well, do you know any black people? And she was like, get to know black people. Like that would be would help. That would be good for you. And then you'll be more useful. And so I loved the experience of getting to know black people, because I'm a Navy kid. There's not like there's not black people in the Navy, but it's just like I grew up in suburban white settings. I settled in my parents, excuse me. I'm not getting emotional. I just,
that's okay.
Like I have some kind of sadness about growing up white or something, but I was like,
of the corn
I was
here.
a beach kid, basically.
Yeah.
I grew up in most of my life after my dad got out of the Navy was in a Southern California beach town. And I loved the like taking Maya Angelou's advice. And it was really good advice, because there's this magnificent kind of side of American culture, which it was back in the 80s. It was wonderful to get to experience that. But the men we were serving were, it's kind of like an institutional kind of shuffle that a lot of people do. And maybe they had been in juvenile detention, or many of them had been in, psychiatric lockup or as children. And so this is kind of what our society does with people who they're kind of square pegs. They don't fit any of the round holes. So there's this institutional cycle of jail, prison, mental, or some kind of charitable, housing situation, maybe drug rehab. So their life was very rough. What we did there was get up in the morning, make coffee, make breakfast, and you'd serve breakfast, then you'd make lunch, you'd serve lunch, and guys would come in and go out. It was just a little place so that could only maybe 30 people, maybe 40 people at a time could be in the soup kitchen. And then you'd have to people would have to go out so more people could come in. And then in the afternoon, meals for the elderly. We did meals for the elderly, and we lived in the community upstairs.
So how many people lived there with you?
Probably like 10. I think 9 or 10, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What an incredible thing.
It was a wonderful experience for me.
Some people think like, okay, I'm going to go do that next Thursday from the hours of 6 to 8. It's another thing to be like, I'm going to live there, and this is my world.
Yeah. And I have to say, Keith, it is important to say, like, sometimes people go, oh, that was a very charitable thing to do, or that was a very holy thing to do. It was not in my case. It was, I had two levels of this. One was I was attracted to the work that they did, but I was also attracted to the fact that you can kind of live an immoral, dissolute life while you do that you don't really have. It kind of excuses a lot of behavior that wasn't good on my part. So I don't want to give the impression like this was some kind of St. Francis moment. St. Francis' life was about the Eucharist, and then extending and Dorothy Day, the founder of the Catholic Worker movement, her life was about the Eucharist and extending the love of God received in the Eucharist to every person that she met. That's not what my life was about. My life was about doing what I wanted and also doing this other thing.
That's interesting because
it's weird, huh?
You do see people that have this distinction between personal morality and social morality.
Right. That's
and
me. That was me, Keith.
This was a big topic of conversation, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago in like politics, when you had like Bill Clinton, who was like, everyone wanted to say, this guy is like, he has all these great, this is what people would say. He's keyed in on serving people and helping the poor, but yet he's got his challenges personally on a moral level, which, who am I to judge, right? But my point is this. There was that conversation happening where it was the different, like, could you rightly distinguish those two things, And some people think or thought that it didn't matter what you did privately. It only mattered what you did publicly. And this is where I think that whole situation began to change because people started having less tolerance for someone who would say, well, I'm going to do all these great public things, but privately I'm, whatever. And I think people were like, they wanted to see someone who had both those things figured out. So I think it's and you look around now, even sometimes it seems like the people that are the most, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is here, but the most hostile towards even religion and faith and Christians are also the ones who claim to have this great social morality.
Sure.
To where, look at all the great, I care about the poor. I care about the immigrants. I care about the marginalized people in society. But yet they're also sometimes like super mean at the same time.
Yeah, or selfish, like I was. Yeah, that's right. I think that's essentially right. And I like when you're talking about world leaders, like there is a certain person who has the charism of leadership who can do the job. Like the Emperor Augustus, his private life is not. You don't admire the Emperor Augustus but he is one of the greatest political leaders in the history of the world. So I do think there's, some people can run a corporation. Now, I've read Warren Buffett say, I read this quote the other day by Warren Buffett, I never made a good deal with a bad person. And I think that's an interesting insight that, there has to be some level of morality. Like you can't just have immoral people running the world. But the thing is, if you're going to minister in Christ's name, if you're going to be at a place called the Catholic Worker or Catholic Answers, it's just not going to cut it.
No,
that's not going to do it.
Job.
No, it's not just a job. And I would like to tell you the story of how Jesus made that really clear to me.
I would love to hear it.
I'm on the street one night, and there's this young woman that we had been working with who was a heroin addict. Her boyfriend was abusive to her. She was pregnant, and they both worked as prostitutes. So out of concern, especially for the child, me and the people who I worked on the street with really were trying to encourage her, get in to a shelter, go to rehab, go to detox, get into a place where they can take care of you and the baby, take a few months off the street. It was just for the sake of the child. And that's a reasonable argument. She's open to that argument. And one night we're out on the street and she's working and I was talking with her. And while I'm talking with her, a car comes up, one of her clients. She just walks away from me, gets in the car and goes. And I had this feeling of being defeated. She's not going to come in off the street. She's not going to do the right thing. And I was praying at the time. And, I don't hear voices or see angels. I don't have visions. But sometimes I do have a clear kind of subtle message that comes over my heart a few times in my life. Maybe I don't know how many times, I couldn't count it, but not a lot of times. But I do think that I'm not ashamed to talk about that or embarrassed to talk about that, because I think God talks to a lot of people, and we shouldn't act like he doesn't. But I'm not one of those people who gets up in the morning and goes, today God told me, this or that. But I'm talking, I don't know, 7 times or 10 times in my life, a kind of clear, settled message settled in my heart. And I knew it's not me that's saying this. And I know that this was Jesus saying it to me. So here I am on the street, really wrecked, because there's nothing I can do for this young woman. And this is what Jesus said, in my way of understanding what he was saying. He said to me, you don't have what she needs. And I knew he was right. I didn't have him. What she needed was him. The world didn't need me. Nobody on the street needed me. Nobody anywhere needed me. I don't have what people need. I wasn't made to have what people need, unless I am bearing, like the Blessed Mother, the Lord within me, So that moment of you don't have what she needs, it's I talked to you about, sometimes Jesus is mean to me. We talked to you about that at lunch, know, and I was harsh. But that's a realization for me of that you didn't choose a life where you can just act like an idiot and live selfishly and think you're going to have what it takes to do what you're trying to do. So, wow. That was another moment. Like I told you, I'm one of those people, I think he has to keep hitting me over the head with it, Keith. But that was a pretty clear message.
I think that's a message that probably has been only more important to you in your work at Catholic Answers.
Oh yeah, yeah, very much so.
You know, and we'll get there, and we'll get there later. But when I feel like in the world of online apologetics and all that stuff like that, where personalities are a big deal and followers are a big deal, there can be a real temptation to make it about, well, I have what they need.
Yeah.
I have the right Catholic answers. Right. I have the right whatever. I have the right this. I have the right that. I can say the right thing. I can say the right argument. I can do all these things. But that subtle reminder of, no, it's not about you.
You don't have anything that the world needs. Unless you have Jesus, you just don't have what's required.
You can have that's so important. Okay. So what changed in your life after that moment?
I'm kind of a slow mover. So it's just a kind of, these things were like, I don't know. It's almost like the river's flowing and then there's like a little dam that was not going that way. So see where the river's going to flow now. And I got a master's degree in literature because I wanted to write. And in the meantime, married with 2 children by the time I got that master's done. And so here's the deal. In the summer of 1996, second child is born. A month later, I have a master's degree in literature conferred upon me. Now I have a bachelor's degree in theology, in Catholic theology, a master's degree in English literature, 2 children, and a wife. I am not prepared for my responsibilities. Like, what am I going to do with those 2 degrees to take care of this family? Like this, like I wait. It's like a moment of, well, didn't think this one through, did you? Like, I didn't get an engineering degree or a business degree. Like, what an idiot. So I did the only thing that I could do at the time. I went to work for a Catholic bishop. I went to work for I started working for the Catholic newspaper in San Diego. We left Boston, came back to San Diego that summer, and I started working at the Catholic newspaper.
So were you a writer?
Yeah, I was. They hired me as a staff writer. The editor was a very, very talented person, Bernadine Carr, who she was a theologian. She wanted to do other things. So she basically kind of groomed me. Look, you're taking this over. And then as soon as she got the bishop to agree, I took over as the editor, and I spent about 10 years as the editor of the Southern Cross, the newspaper of the Diocese of San Diego.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was a godsend. It was.
Did you love that?
I don't like editing. I'm not a very detail-oriented person, and that requires attention to detail. So it was 10 years of, it was paying the bills. I was getting to work with people I loved, reporting on stories I loved reporting on, but also kind of hating my job a little bit. But it allowed us to have the kids and, have a family. So, but I would not go back to editing, Keith. That would not be choice number 1. No.
So you didn't edit the book that just came out that you worked on? With
no,
Steve?
I try to hand it in a sloppy mess so that the editors have to work hard to fix it.
Well, they have to earn their money too, right?
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
So, okay. So then you were at the paper. How did Catholic Answers come into your life, and when did that take place?
So, I was at the newspaper from that summer of 96 to the fall of 2007, I think, is when I left. I left because they had just settled about, $250 million of lawsuits. That was the time when they were bankrupting all the dioceses in California. And the diocese was in bankruptcy. And also, I was itching to go do something else. So I sat down with the bishop and I said, he was going to cut the paper. He had to. He didn't have any money. So a lot of stuff was getting cut. So he was going to cut it down to monthly rather than we had been doing biweekly. The page count was going to go way down. And I said, you don't need me or my salary. And also, I think I'm ready to go. And he was very nice, and we parted very amicably, but I was off to a new adventure after that. So I went to work for a secular newspaper company, a job that I truly, truly failed at, and realized I'm not a media person. I'm a Catholic media person. Like, I don't, and they they became aware of it quite quickly too. And I really liked it. I did not dislike it, but it wasn't me at all. So I taught English. I taught writing for night classes for a while, and started to hear about Catholic radio, and I wanted to get involved with Catholic radio. And Immaculate Heart Radio, which was covering most of California, was just getting started in San Diego. Oh, I don't know, a year or two later. It might have been 3 years later. I can't remember, but it's sometime in that time frame. It was a difficult period of my life. A lot of just kind of scraping by because I didn't know what I was going to be doing next. And so then when Catholic radio came to San Diego, I decided, well, I have a strategy. I'll just stalk them. So everywhere they showed up, I showed up, and
good strategy.
and it worked out. They hired me, and I started. They hired me to basically be in the development side, fundraising. I didn't care. I just wanted to be associated with Catholic radio. The first day I heard Catholic radio on the air, I remember it driving in my car. I remember the street I was going down. I remember how the sun was, because I thought, the cat's out of the bag. Like, we're out in public now. Mm-hmm. Like, this is out here. Like, anybody can hear this. I was so excited about it. So I just really wanted to be involved in it. I loved the people at Immaculate Heart Radio. They were super good to me. And one way or another, I ended up doing some things on the air. And I think that they were like, oh, this guy he can do we could have him on the air sometimes. And so I think I ended up with a 1 hour, I think it was a Saturday radio show, and then a 1 hour daily show.
Really?
Yeah. And then all this time, Immaculate Heart Radio is based in Sacramento. So I'm going up there to work. They built a little home studio in my house so that I could do my show. And Catholic Answers is 30 miles the other direction. They're down in San Diego. And so one day they heard me on the air. Somebody heard me on the air. I think it was Darren, our current producer. But Darren called me and said, Patrick Coffin, sometimes when he has a day off, we need somebody to just come in and cover. Would you be willing to be a fill-in host? I was like, would I be willing? So I put
me in, coach.
They said, well, you can just use your home studio. And I said, no, I'm coming in. And I never did that show from home. For about 2 years, I was doing the Immaculate Radio thing. And every time a Catholic Answers called, I got in the car and drove there, because Woody Allen said, you probably know this quote, 90% of life is showing up.
Yep.
And so I was going to show up. So I never once said, I'll just do it from home.
True freedom is to do God's will. It's not to do whatever our flesh desires, but yet as men, we are constantly being pulled in all sorts of different directions as so many things in the world try to enslave us. But through Christ, we can find freedom. And I'm here to tell you, there's been nothing more helpful in my life as a man than to go through Exodus 90. It's a powerful experience that we go through with other brothers, my friends, from all over the world. We start January 5th, but you can get involved even now. There's an incredible Advent challenge coming up. And I know you might be thinking, cold showers and disciplines, that sounds pretty tough. It is. But you know what? You need to be pushed. I need to be pushed. And Exodus 90 is a fantastic way to do it. So go to exodus90.com and you can sign up for 14 days for free, my friends. Check it out. I promise you, you won't regret it. Push yourself this year into freedom with Exodus 90. You hear that, kids out there?
Show up.
Those of you that never want to talk on the phone, you just want to text, you don't want to go anywhere, show up.
Yeah. There's nothing like being in person.
Yeah.
There's nothing like.
Well, that's why we're here. I mean, we built this because I was doing the virtual interviews for a couple of years. I'm like, no, let's just do this.
Right. Yeah.
It makes it harder, but God provides.
Right. God provides.
And you're right. I mean, I bet just that was like your dream, and getting the call, it would have felt weird just to be sitting in the same chair you always sat in.
Yeah, right,
and not be a part of it. But to get to go down there, it's like going in there, man. That was like, all right, this helps you feel like I'm really a part of this.
Yes, and I wanted to meet these people face to face. That's at first. I wanted to meet Jimmy and Tim and see how they do it. I remember the first time I I guest hosted. Tim was the guest, and I wanted to see, like, all right, what kind of a computer bank does he have in front of him? Like, what's the setup here for Catholic Answers? And here's Tim, and right next to him, he's got the Bible and the Catechism.
Yep.
He never opens them, does the full hour, maybe it was 2 hours of the show that day. And I was like, well, I guess I see how they do it here. They actually know their stuff.
He just knows, man.
He just knows so much stuff. And so I really enjoyed it. I didn't think anything was coming of it. I was shocked when Patrick Coffin decided to move on. Like, everybody just thought Patrick Coffin was Catholic Answers. That's just how it was. And I was just like really enjoying getting to fill in sometimes. And then when Patrick left, I was like, well, should I apply for this job or should I my wife's like, what are you doing? Like, apply for the job, idiot. Like, why are you fussing about this? And so Catholic Answers said to me, they interviewed me in September.
What year was this?
This would have been 2016 when they interviewed me. Is that right? 2016. Yeah. September 2016, they interviewed me. They said, well, we're going to interview a lot of people. We just want you to know we're going to interview a lot of people. Thanks for coming in, but we won't be making a decision till the end of the year. So, I mean, I thought end of the year was like, I didn't know they meant end of the year. So I waited through September, October, November. I'm going in, I'm filling in when Patrick's not around. Nobody says anything to me about the job.
Can I bring my stuff or what?
like, is this permanent now? Am I part of the band yet? And nobody says anything. They're cool as cats about the whole thing. So at the end of the year, I have to go to Sacramento because I got to do the 2-day year-end pledge drive at Immaculate Heart Radio. So I'm like, this is really the end of the year. Like, we're on the air up till 5 p.m. the last day of the year, to try to raise funds, because people want to get their donation in before the calendar year is over. So you go on the air and you ask them to call in. So 5 p.m. comes, no call, no nothing. And I thought, well, I wonder who they hired. So I'm getting my rental car to go back to the airport, Sacramento. I stopped to have dinner because I had time before the plane came, or before the plane was leaving. I'm sitting there at dinner, phone rings, it's Darren. And he goes, we'd like to offer you the job of host of Catholic Answers. And I was like, you were not kidding about end of the year, man. like I just gave up on this an hour ago.
Wow.
I was just convinced, well, we're done. Close the business. We're done. And so, and then he goes, do you need time to think about it? I said, no. I said, I've already talked to my wife about it. We're ready to go. And then, I said, well, I'm going to need time I have to transition out of Immaculate Heart Radio. And he goes, yeah, could you start in 2 weeks?
It's like, I'll give you till the end of the year.
Yeah, I'll be there before. That's what I should have said, Keith. I'll be there before the end of the year. So on the day that Donald Trump was inaugurated President of the United States in 2017, January of 2017, I started at Catholic Answers.
Wow.
So, yep. So I always remember because my job started the same day his job started.
That's so wild. That's so wild. So let's talk a little bit about what it's like for you to be there.
Okay.
And some of the work that you do hosting Catholic Answers Live every single day. First of all, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Because I know, it was a help to me personally when I was coming into the Catholic Church. I had two little on-ramps to Catholicism. One, I bailed because I was too afraid. And then the second one, I obviously stayed right on it. And I think one of the reasons why I was able to do that the second time was because the first time there wasn't any kind of Catholic media out there that I was aware of. There wasn't YouTube. There wasn't, all this kind of stuff. This was like back in like the early 2000s. Well, when I was going through this again in like 2015, 2016-ish, there was Catholic Answers Live. There were, these other apostolates. There were things on YouTube. There were all these people that were so helpful to me. And I remember just not knowing what to do and being able to listen to stuff and have my questions answered and be encouraged and to think, man, look, these guys know what they're talking about. They're not illiterate people who don't understand the Bible.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that's such a comforting thing to people because I tell you, I think Catholic radio is amazing.
Yeah, me too.
I think that, and my wife and I have talked about this, like the difference between Catholic radio and non-Catholic radio, it's night and day, I feel like, because Catholic radio to me seems so much more focused on prayer and faith and catechization and formation versus just some like kind of Christian entertainment.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And to me, it's the Catholic radio thing is so important. It's so awesome. So, you know, shout out to KMMK, our local station, who carries that, who was helpful to me and all of that. But to what you guys are doing there, it's powerful. But what are the biggest challenges that you face doing this day in and day out as you host this show?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had a big job. Like I'm in my dream job right now. So it's kind of hard for me to think in those terms. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it seems to me that life in the Catholic Church has been somewhat unsettled for the last, well, I'm 61, and so for at least 61 years. I mean, like we had I was born in the middle of the Second Vatican Council, which means I have not lived one day of my life as a Catholic in a settled Catholic Church. Something has been upset, controversial, you know, on the line since that time. It really feels like going through, as a member of a diocesan staff, going through the scandals was horrible. It was horrible. And seeing what the bishop went through was horrible. And part of the horror, of course, is knowing that a lot of these cases were real. You know, it wasn't like it was horrible, like, oh, we're the good guys. It was, oh man, this is bad. Yeah. This is bad. And so, you know, I think I'm on my 23rd year of people asking me how I can defend pedophiles, you know, and I'm not even a priest. The priests have gone through it much harder. So I think that the biggest challenge is not to get caught up in whatever the controversy of the moment is, and to stay on the person of Jesus Christ, the sacraments that save our souls. The sacraments save our souls, and invite people to that. And it's a challenge because you're human and you want to yell sometimes. You know, you just want to like shake somebody and go, what are we doing as Catholics? So for me, I would say that's the biggest challenge. Yeah. And it's helpful to be an apostolate where there are other people there, because there's always somebody who's having a moment of grace that day. You know, there's always at least one person who's going to go, maybe let's not go down that road. Maybe let's stay on what we do, you know. Sometimes it is only just one person, but like I've seen Trent Horn, oh my gosh, or Joe, I mean, all of them. But I'm just remembering a particular time where Trent Horn was like, it's in a meeting and people are discussing stuff, and he just said the most sane thing that kept us all sane. And you go, well, God worked through Trent today. You know, it'll be Tim tomorrow or Jimmy tomorrow. But having an apostolate like that, where there's a lot of voices, really does, it helps to keep you balanced.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think that having multiple people that are all really good at that does a lot of good for all of you, because it kind of keeps each other in check. Like not one person sort of is the dominant voice of everything. And
right.
And I also think too, like what I've noticed with Catholic Answers is each of the guys that I've been able to get to know a little bit, they sort of have their areas that they're like a little bit more versed in. So it's kind of like, okay, if you want to talk about the Blessed Virgin Mary, you know, you're going to go talk to Tim Staples. If you want to talk about the Church Fathers, you're going to go see Jimmy Aiken. If you want to talk about the papacy, you go see Joe Heschmeyer. If you want to talk about, you know, atheism or sola scriptura, Trent's your guy. Purgatory, you got Carlo. You know, I mean, so it's almost like this dream team of different people with like different gifts. And I just, you know, I think to myself, that's got to be so amazing. What are the things that you would tell, having been around these guys, there's a lot of young apologists that are coming up and doing their own thing, like what we're doing. Like they have Instagram accounts. These are 20-year-old kids, that are like, I'm going to get on and defend the Catholic Church and do all this stuff. What advice do you give, like someone who's fired up to defend the Catholic Church, and they just started up their own Instagram account or their own TikTok account, and they say, that's it, I'm going to just profess and defend the Catholic faith. They want to be an apologist. Like, what advice do you give someone like that?
Well, I would say whatever I say this in addition to the basic things, which are stay close to the sacraments, remain in a state of grace, all the things that you have to say to every Catholic. Like, they apply to you. If you're going to minister in the name of the church, or if you're going to defend the church, you better be attending to these things, And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but that's why we have confession. I was in line for confession at my church, and this lady said to me, "Are you Cy Kellett from Catholic Answers?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I won't tell anybody you're here." I was like, what? Why would you not tell them? Like, I didn't know if she meant like, I don't want somebody to bother you. I'm not like super famous or something. Or if she meant like, I don't want the word to get out that you need confession. I'm like, well, I kind of do need this. Like, so I'm not sure exactly what she meant by that, but so anything I will say is in addition to all of that. You've got to stay close to Jesus, and there is a way to do it. And the sacraments are the primary way to do that. A life of prayer, the rosary. I mean, I feel like there's two people in my life: the guy before I started praying the rosary, and the guy after I started praying the rosary. Amen. So I don't know what the power of the rosary is. I can't explain it to you. I can't give you the theology. All I can say is there was one guy, and then there's another guy. Amen. And so I like the another guy way better. And so, if God gave you these gifts, use them. But the other thing I would say is, look, your opponent is just as smart as you are. Often is just, not always, but often is just as good a hearted person as you are. Don't act like if only they were smart enough to see the right answer. They're smart. They see it a different way than you. Occasionally, you're going to find out they were right and you were wrong. That's okay. Like, you're not perfect. But I think there's Carlo has a wonderful attitude. Dr. Carlo Broussard. I have to call him Doctor.
Yeah, because
it's in his contract now.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he had it written in his contract. I love it. We all have to call him Dr. Carlo Broussard. I have to say I'm just kidding because I don't want to make Carlo look bad. But, he's like, he has this attitude, like when I'm having a conversation with a person, like they're just as smart as I am. They've thought this through. I can't be just like, it's so obvious. They're like, Jesus said, on this rock I'll build my church, therefore the papacy. Well, no, that's not how that works. Because if it was that obvious, then the person wouldn't be having a struggle with it, So I do think that we have to be really careful of not, these Protestants are so dumb, or, these Orthodox, what are they? Yeah, the argument makes sense to you, probably because I hope because the argument is true, but the other person is not stupid. They're not just mean-spirited. I mean, and there's a lot of mean-spirited Catholics. They just have the truth because they were born into a Catholic family, good for them. But I do think avoiding the pitfall of underestimating or dismissing your opponent or being dismissive of your opponent as somehow, their heart is just hard. You don't know anything about their heart. They don't see it. It's like those, like somebody's like, look at that cloud. Doesn't it look like a pig? And you're like, I don't see the pig. And they're like, it looks exactly like a pig. And you're like, I don't see a pig. People see what they see. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they don't want to see the pig. I'm not calling the church a pig. I don't want did you see, So I would say that is the main thing.
So what you're saying is like to have a little humility, like in those things. What about like education? How important is formal education to being an apologist? Do you think that? And so if someone was like, I just graduated high school, I want to be a Catholic apologist. Do I have to go to college? Do I have to get a master's degree? What do I need to do? Like, what's the career path for someone like that?
Well, I think if you wanted to work for us, I would say, yeah, get a master's degree in theology. I mean, you don't have to have that. They don't all have that, but yeah, start there. But there's a lot of people with master's degrees in theology that can't be apologists.
Absolutely.
So it's a different skill set. There's people with doctorates in theology who have told me, I don't want to do apologetics. I can't. My area is the book of, pick a book of the Bible. Like you want to talk about Romans, I know all about Romans. But if somebody wants to know, the 5 proofs for God's existence, I'm not your guy. So it's a different skill set to be a theologian than to be an apologist. And so there is a kind of general education that the apologist needs. I mean, I don't think it's absolutely required that you have degrees, but it is kind of important to remember that bachelor's, master's, doctorates, degrees, these are almost like children of the Catholic Church. The Church gave us those degrees. That came from the university system, which is the Church's child. And the reason that they had those degrees was to protect people from foolishness and error. It was so that you could go to the University of Paris and be a master of something, and then you could go to Poland and present yourself as a master, and you could teach in the cathedral school there. Whereas so these were protective. Now, of course, there's massive corruption in our university systems. Like, they don't have the same attachment to the truth that the medieval Catholic institutions had. If people think medieval Catholics were backwards, a medieval Catholic at the University of Paris would have been far more open-minded than the average person teaching at Cornell University today or at Harvard University. There was an open-mindedness about the truth that they had that just has been corrupted. I don't know any other way to say it. Corrupted in Western. So I know you got to be cautious and all that, but what's your problem? Why not go to Steubenville, or why not go to Christendom College, or or any of the others? There's all these great schools, and we're always trying to get there. Like the president of University of Dallas did a great interview with us. And so now I have to mention all of them. So please hold on while I mention every Orthodox Catholic university in the world, because I can't.
Well, if they sponsored my channel, then we would. But,
okay, right, exactly. So I wouldn't be too resistant to getting an education. It's a good thing, and there are certain standards, and there are things you can see in, an autodidact, the person who has just taught themselves everything. They tend to lack a perspective. And the perspective is that, a scholarly community does break you down in some ways.
Yeah.
It breaks down something in you. And sometimes the autodidact is a little too certain about certain things. And you're like, you could have used a professor.
I think there's that. Anytime you put yourself underneath somebody else's authority,
you're
going to be challenged. I think that's why.
Right.
If you just are self-taught is great, it's good to be self-motivated, but you're only going to get so far before you go, I don't need to be pushed. Whereas like a professor can see where you're weak or where you need to be challenged.
Right. Or where you haven't thought of something. Yeah, right.
Where do you challenge yourself? Which is, I think, probably a pretty cool thing about the environment with multiple theologists or apologists, where you guys are. They are theologians and apologists. So I just made up a new word, theologist.
Nice.
I like it. Did we use that?
That's a theologian is the preferred, but yeah, sometimes people say theologist, but I like the combination of.
Well, it's the first time
maybe an apologian,
or
a theologist.
That'd be cool. Okay. Smashing those two things together.
Yeah.
In an environment like that, I would imagine that those guys sharpen each other in a pretty powerful way.
Very much so. Very much so.
But let's just talk about this for a second.
Okay.
Who's the smartest one there? Can you tell me? No, I'm just kidding.
I could tell you. No, it's weird because I mean, I don't really think of intelligence as a brute thing, like I like, and so they're so different. I've never met anybody smarter than Tim Staples and Jimmy Akin. They're as smart as the smartest people I've known, but look at how different their intellects are. Their minds work in very, very different ways. So, I mean, if we could maintain that standard though, as we go into the future, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. They are wickedly smart people, but there's areas where Trent will be like, why don't you let Carlo answer that one? And where Carlo will go, that sounds like a Jimmy question to me. So
that's beautiful though, isn't it? That's the body of Christ. I mean, really, right. in reality, that's how we should be, right? Because nobody can be all things to all people in that way. Right. So it's good to be.
Well, and the nice thing that they can do too is I've heard like Carlo will say, I want to answer that question, but I want to check on one thing with Jimmy because he's read more about this than me, or they'll do that, or Jimmy, he'll say, Jimmy doesn't know the Catholic saints, like if you said to Jimmy, what do you think of St. Philip Neri's theology? Jimmy will be like, I don't know anything about St. Philip Neri. He doesn't do saints. I mean, it's not that he doesn't do saints. It's just like, that's not his area of expertise. So if you want to know about saints, ask Joe Heschmeyer. Joe knows about saints. But, if you want to know canon law, Jimmy's pretty darn good. I don't know if he's got it memorized, but he's pretty darn good.
Well, let's talk about books for a second because you've got a book.
How nice, Keith! Look at that. You just have a copy.
Isn't this amazing? What a
coincidence!
And no, for those of you wondering, Cy did not bring this book to me. So it wasn't like he just gave it to me and said, "Hey, we're talking about this." They actually sent it to me in the mail. No, I'm just kidding. But no, this is an interesting book to me, and I'll tell you why. And I haven't told you this yet, but I'm working on another book right now. And it's kind of like this. So I was a little bit frustrated when I started reading. I'm like, dang it. They thought of this first. No. I mean, it's it's similar in theme, but complete. Like I read this entire book last night. Yep. Okay. And it's similar in its practicality and the theme, but it's different in where it's pointed.
Okay.
So I think I'm still good to probably try to write it, but it probably won't be as good as yours. But how to talk to Jesus, how to talk about Jesus with anyone.
Yes.
Tested techniques for planting seeds and saving souls. Steve Dawson and Cy Kellett, or Steve Dawson with Cy Kellett. First of all, what does it mean, the with? I've always wondered that when someone's like,
it means with this all guy. Steve's ideas.
Okay.
It really does. It's all Steve's ideas.
He just needed your name on there, right? Because you're famous.
As my fame is going to sell the book. But no, he needed a typist is basically what he needed. So I did put the book together without question, but there's nothing original to me in there. It's all stuff from Steve and I did interviews. He gave me materials. He wrote things for me. He did all of these ideas, and I took all that material and I made it into a book.
So that's Steve is the guy who's in charge. He founded the St. Paul Street Evangelization.
St. Paul Street Evangelization, yes.
So these are guys that are actually going out and talking to people about Jesus
on the street.
What I love about this book was it's super practical.
Like, okay, good. I'm glad you like that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my jam.
Okay.
One of the problems I have with all the Catholic books I read anymore is none of them are practical. They're all just like,
what am I supposed to do with this?
I'm like, great, okay, but I'm not like this super smart guy that just gets all worked up about all these ideas. I like that, but I want to know, I want somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Hey, if I want to know how to talk to Jesus about somebody, is this book going to tell me what to do? And when I say tell me what to do, I mean like literally. And one of the things I love about this book, for example, was the chapter on icebreakers.
Isn't it good? Yeah, that's all Steve. Like, that's so Steve. Yeah.
It's just like, okay, how do you start that conversation? And there's a part of this book where it's like, okay, carry some miraculous medals around and just give them to somebody.
Which Steve knows about because that's how he lives. Steve carries miraculous medals in his pocket and he gives them to people.
What a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
Hey, here's this medal. I like to give these away. Can I tell you why? So to me, like that was a great practical idea. And there were others too, but how did this come together for you?
Well, it's funny. This is a book where the title came first. It's our boss, Chris Check, told Steve Dawson, we were with him somewhere, I don't remember where, a few years ago. And he said, Steve, I want a book called How to Talk About Jesus with Someone You Just Met. That was the title. And he goes, you're the only guy to write the book, to Steve. And Steve said, okay. And then they teamed me up with Steve to get it. Now, in the process, the title changed a little bit, How to Talk About Jesus with Anyone, because some of it is about how to talk about Jesus with your family. It's not just strangers, but it was totally an idea pitched to Steve by our president, Chris Check, based on the title. But the title explains exactly what the book is. I mean, that's why there's no art on the cover. Like, the actual thought was the title is the book. Yeah. There's no art that's going to represent better. Like this, that's what this is. It's a how-to book, and it's just about talking about Jesus. So Steve and I worked on the book together off and on for about 2 years, but he's a super busy guy. We both lost our mothers this year. So it's like a lot's been going on.
Yeah.
So it had its challenges about getting done and packaged and put together, but essentially that's it. Chris had a title and he wanted Steve to fill it out with a book. And there we have it.
So cool. I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
I wish I could just come up with a title and tell somebody to write a book.
Yeah, well, become the president of Catholic Answers. But the thing about it is, you can look at our catalog and you can see there's certain holes in it. Like Jimmy has a book, The Bible is a Catholic Book. Okay, that's our Bible book. Trent has a book called Why We're Catholic. That's our Introduction to Catholicism book. Joe has Pope Peter, and the early church was the Catholic Church. Carlo has Purgatory is for Real. Tim has Behold Your Mother, a whole book on Mary. So you look at the catalog and you go, well, what are we missing? And evangelization, we don't have a strong evangelization book. We cover it in various ways, but we don't have a strong evangelization book. So you do kind of think of it that way, that we're kind of an organism in a way. We're not just individual authors, but it's like the catalog has to cover all the main stuff.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I hope people will think about this, because it's one of those books that's easy to read, and there's some practical things in here. And I'm the kind of person that if I read a book and I can remember one or two things that I'm going to use, then I go, that was time well spent. And I definitely have a couple from this.
Right.
And I think anybody would be able to do the same. So we'll link this in the description, but I hope folks will check it out.
And now we'll have to have you on when your book comes out.
I gotta write it first.
Oh yeah,
I'm working on it.
Well, we could do yours with Cy Kellett if you want.
I probably need somebody. I had my last.
I now have the experience of pulling together a book. So
when I wrote my second book on the Rosary, which by the way, both of my books are available on CatholicAnswers.com. Which I thought was kind of cool. That was really an honor for me that they asked me.
They're not going to put it on there if they don't like it.
They did it. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, that's wild. But when I was writing the Rosary book, it was so crazy, like this teamwork thing. I had written this manuscript, and I just hated it. I'm like, this is what I want, but I don't like it. It just doesn't. There's something missing. And a guy who I met who's a Catholic novelist, he came along and the Lord just dropped him in my life, and he came up to me and he said, I'm supposed to help you with your next book. And I said, wow. Really, who are you? His name's Bud McFarland Jr., right? He wrote these Catholic novels in the 90s, Pierced by a Sword, Conceive Without Sin, whatever. I didn't know anything about this. I wasn't Catholic back then, but I guess they were huge books back in the day, like in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And so he gave me these books, and I honestly didn't read it at first. I just sort of went on my pile of books, and I went over to my friend's house, and she had a box of them sitting in her.
Isn't that funny?
And I'm like, what are those doing? She's like, oh, that's my favorite book. I give it away to everybody every year. And I said, I know that guy. She said, no, you don't. I said, no, I do. I know that guy. So anyway, long story short, I went home and read the book, and I was like, this is awesome. This guy can write. So I called him, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to help you. So he invited me out to his office, and we just powered through this manuscript. And then he was able to take the thoughts that were in my head and take them in a way that made them more me.
Oh, isn't
weird.
That great?
Like, I was afraid when we sat down and we were going to work on it together that he was going to take the ideas and make him sound like him. But he didn't. He made him sound even more like me. Like we spent time together and he was like, no, you wouldn't say it that way. You say it like this. This is how Keith talks. So you need to say this. And then Unpacking the Mysteries of the Rosary was born that way. And it's like I love it but I needed that help is my point.
Yeah.
You know?
I hope I don't know if I did as well with Steve. You do feel insecure about it because his ideas really are brilliant. And so but yeah, I'm not gonna. I can't do that quite at that level. But that was kind of my task with Steve.
Well, I don't know what it would have looked like without it, but I can tell you that whatever you did was good.
Okay, good.
So
thank you, Keith.
Yeah, my pleasure. I want to ask you just a couple more questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
The seat that you're sitting in right now, everybody answers 3 questions.
Okay.
I call them the most important questions.
Okay.
And it has to do with the answers. And I would love to hear your take on these things. The first question is this: what is the most important thing that you would tell someone who is considering Catholicism? They're not Catholic yet, they're not whatever, but they're thinking about it. What's the most important thing that they need to know or that they need to do?
It wouldn't be what they need to do, I don't think. I would like to share my experience, which is the primary gift that you will receive as a Catholic, if you really commit to the sacramental life, is peace. And I think that what you will receive is the charity of God in your heart. And all that is all true. And there's probably many great things you'll do, but what you will receive, the thing that you will receive that will be most precious to you is peace. And the world can't give you peace. The world is full of unsettledness, and to know the peace of the presence of God is worth everything. It's worth everything. It's the only thing that really makes everything else bearable. That even eternal life would be unbearable if it didn't come with peace.
Wow.
And so I would say, open your heart to receive the peace of Christ.
I think you're the only person that's ever answered that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I love that answer. Because
what
ultimately,
were some of the good answers? Maybe I could prove for the next show I'm on.
Well, a lot of people say things like, this is how I would answer that question. Like, well, learn the catechism.
Oh, yeah.
Learn what the church teaches. Don't listen to people who hate the Catholic Church. Learn as much as you can. It's a lot about work. It's a lot of work. Okay. What you talked about is a lot of rest.
Yeah. I'm really good at rest, Steve. I am really good at rest.
But that's important.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, what would cause somebody to consider Catholicism anyway? There's this sense that something is not right in the world.
Yeah.
And that there is a truth out there that I don't have, and that there is more to life than what I'm experiencing. There's a restlessness in my heart that, as St. Augustine said, that our hearts will not rest until they rest in thee. And the search for Catholicism is a search for that rest. And what you're saying is that's what you're going to find.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to find.
Right. You will have to persevere. You can't just give up. But maybe if people know that the gift that Christ wants to give you is peace, maybe they will persevere. Maybe.
Well, that kind of goes to my second question, because there's 3 of them.
All right.
So the second one is, what would you say the most important thing for someone who is converting to the Catholic Church? They've decided to become Catholic, like they're a new convert. They're in that process.
Well, I want to say find an organization like Catholic Answers and become a donor, but I don't know that that's...
You just did.
But I don't know.
Are you still in development?
Yeah, I had some old habits, they die hard. Say it again to me.
Chris Check is very happy right now.
Yeah, right. He is, actually.
What's the most important thing for someone who's like a new convert? Maybe it's in their first year.
Okay.
And you could say, get Keith Nestor's book, The Convert's Guide to Roman Catholicism.
Yeah.
Your first year in the church. You could say that too, if you want.
Right.
You could tell them to buy it on Catholic Answers.
Right.
Or they could buy it on my Amazon or my website.
Yeah.
But what would you say?
Well, I would say all of that.
That was a great answer, by the way.
I would say all of that.
That was phenomenal.
And in addition to that, I would say, I think this comes from my own experience of moving past my modern rationalism that is to say, if, like alcoholics and Alcoholics Anonymous say, if you work the program works,
Mm-hmm.
and that is really deep wisdom in a lot of ways. But here I got some deeper wisdom for you. If you cooperate with the sacraments work.
Dude.
And that, like, you don't have to understand it. You don't have to you can go to Mass and be distracted for the entire Mass, as long as it's not willful distraction. You intended to go and pay attention. You just got distracted for the entire Mass. None of this has to do with your rationality. We get so stuck in, well, I didn't get anything out of it because I didn't, No, if your will is set on receiving the sacraments, you receive 100% of what your will was ready to receive. You just will it. Just say, Jesus, I trust you in this. Like, I have this feeling sometimes going to receive the Eucharist of, I don't know if it's not like I'm not holy enough. That's not what I can't prepare myself right for this. I'm not prepared, God. I just can't prepare myself. So I have developed this prayer that I say when I'm walking up, which is, Holy Spirit, prepare my soul to receive Jesus. And then I just stop worrying about it.
Prayer.
Like you do it. Like, that's what the sacraments are not something you do. There's something God does for you. So just trust that if you will just will it, if you just have the will, I'm here to receive whatever you want to give me, Lord, the sacraments do what God says they'll do.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Good. It took me a long time to live that way. It's weird. Modern people, we think it's our mind grasping a thing that makes the thing real.
Mm-hmm. That's
not what makes the thing real. It's God in filling it with power that makes the thing real.
Amen.
So that the person who is, has Alzheimer's, but has lived the life of faith and can still remember that they are a person of faith, they don't understand very much, but you think they're not receiving the grace of that sacrament? You think their soul is not being transformed? You haven't met God if you think, Jesus needs to have a talk with you.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, one more, but I just want to say that was a phenomenal answer. And I like the way that you connected that to the AA thing. If you work the plan works.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's so true when it comes to Catholicism. It's all given to us by God. It's a gift. We didn't create that. We didn't invent that.
No.
We're not clever enough. He's given it to us, and He's invited us to walk in it.
Right.
And if we do, it'll work.
It will.
I like your prayer. I've prayed a prayer going up to communion before that's not as good as yours. I've prayed at times, Lord, if I'm not supposed to do this, strike me dead before I get to the front.
You're a braver man than I am.
That's because I'm like, I don't want to because sometimes like you go up through a communion, you're like, man, did I sin mortally? Did I do something wrong? And you're like, have that moment of weird doubt, where you probably all get scrupulosity or whatever comes in.
It's Jesus that you're receiving. Like if you don't have some concern about that, you're foolish.
And I don't know, maybe this is a little off topic, but I've had moments where I felt like the evil one trying to impress into my heart that I shouldn't do this. Yeah. Not out of concern for my soul, but like, you're not worthy of this. Like, this is no, this isn't for you, Or maybe a condemning thing, hey, what about that? Did you do that? Did you forget to say that in confession, or did you?
Right.
And I've been literally walking up and had these moments where like, Lord, I want to receive you. I believe that I'm in a state of grace. If I'm not, just kill me.
Wow.
So I don't do anything to offend you. Is that's probably a weird medieval Catholic prayer somewhere?
Yeah,
Lord,
but I love medieval Catholics. May you
kill me, lest I offend you. I don't know.
I'm going to do that now. When I go up to communion, I'm going to be like,
if I find out that Cy Kellett dropped dead of a heart attack in the communion line somewhere.
No, I said I'm going to pray what you pray. I'm going to pray, Lord, if I'm not ready, kill Keith Nestor.
Okay, and that's much better.
then I'll know I wasn't ready.
Okay, I would take the heat for you. All right, last question before this devolves into even more like weird things in Keith's head, which is not supposed to be that. What's the most important thing you tell the cradle Catholic who's sitting in Mass 20, 30 years, their whole life, and they just, all they've ever known is being Catholic, and they're just there. What do they need to know or do?
Wow, that is weirdly the hardest question. because I feel like that person is me.
Well, maybe. Okay. Then talk to yourself for a second.
That's a weird, that's a hard one. It's one that I learned from Tim Staples, and he learned it from Thomas Aquinas.
He's that old?
Yeah, he learned it right, sitting at the feet of Thomas Aquinas. If you're not growing, you're dying. That's, and again, those medieval Catholics were really something, man. They knew how to live. And if you're not growing in the faith, you're dying in the faith. Your faith is dying. So don't take any of this for granted. We can become really comfortable. I know I become comfortable sometimes in the faith, and I know that is not a good thing to have happen to you. So I guess that's what I would say. If you're not growing, you're dying. So find some, do an act of charity that you didn't expect you were going to do today. Say a prayer, take on a fast, do something today that you didn't expect, because this is precious, and you got to keep growing it. You got to tend it every single day.
Wow. Well, and you also said earlier, you got to persevere.
Yeah, right.
Part of growing is persevering, isn't it?
Yeah. And sometimes, I honestly think some days that's all you can do is persevere. Like, I don't know how your days go, but there's days where I'm like, if I can get through this day without apostatizing, then praise God. Not that I want to apostatize. I'm not saying that. It's not like a temptation. I'm just saying that, sometimes you have a bad day, and it's sometimes just like Father Hugh Barber told me this about what they used to say to the monks, and I can't remember how this was, like the ancient desert fathers used to say to the monks, and it was like a series of things if a monk was in crisis, and it would be like, if you can't be charitable, then just be faithful. If you can't be faithful, just, so I can't remember how it all went. I don't remember, but the last one was, if you can't do any of that, don't leave. That's just stay where you are. Don't leave, because tomorrow's going to be a different day. If you can just, and I think sometimes that's all we can do. Persevere.
90% of being Catholic is just showing up.
Yeah, right. Well, that's certainly true though in marriage, though, isn't it? I mean, some days just don't leave. Like marriage is really, really hard. At least that's what my wife tells me. And but just don't leave. Don't leave your children. Don't leave your spouse. Stay here today. And that's all you can do. Just do that.
You know what? I think that's probably the most practical, helpful advice, given the times that we're in, that some people need to hear.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people, and I don't want to just say it's just, the younger people, some of the older people that I've talked to as well that have been Catholic their whole life, they've wrestled with all this stuff too.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like they have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to being a Catholic in, America in the 21st century or whatever. And sometimes all they can say is, yeah, I don't understand that. I don't like that. I don't get that, but I'm not going anywhere.
Right. That's right.
I'm not going anywhere. I know it's hard to be here, but Lord, to whom shall we go?
That's it. Right.
You alone have the words of eternal life.
That's right. Yeah. Peter, to whom shall we go? Because because a lot of times it's not going to make sense. A lot of times you're going to be like, I married the wrong person. I'm in the wrong church. Just stop. Don't let that be the thing that leads you off on the constant chasing your tail.
Amen.
Which is where you're going to end up if you do that.
That's true. Wow. Well, Cy, it's been awesome hanging out with you.
I'm so glad I got to come here, Keith. Thank you.
It's been
Thank
great.
you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. And I guess let people know, where if they've never seen this before, they don't know, they just stumbled on here. Where do they find Catholic Answers Live?
Catholic.com. You can find us on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts, all of that. Check us out on your local Catholic radio station. We're on in the afternoon on Sirius Satellite Radio, channel 130. It's pretty hard to miss Catholic Answers. I mean, I think we're actually annoying. We're probably
you guys are on X Live too. Like I'll be on my computer.
We're on X,
like,
right.
oh, they're on right now. You know?
We're on Twitch. I literally don't even know what Twitch is, but we get calls from Twitch. And somebody told me it's like a gamers thing. And but people will call us from Twitch. So
praise the Lord.
Yeah,
it's another place where in this digital landscape people are congregating, and it's so cool that Catholic Answers hasn't just said, well, no, we don't do that. We just write books or whatever. It's like, or we just create materials. No, it's like go into all the world. And it goes back to this, doesn't it? How to talk to Jesus, how to talk about Jesus with anyone. You got to go where they are.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You got to be
that's
there.
In the online.
You got to show up.
Yeah,
90% of talking to people about Jesus is showing up.
Yeah, if you're not there, you can't do it. That's right. Yeah.
Well, keep up the great work, and as always, if there's anything that
we're
can
big
do for
fans of
man.
you, Keith Nestor. We, we have this thing I told you about this. We have this thing we talk about called the Catholic Answers voice, and there's certain people we look to and go, all right, try to be more like that person. And I got to tell you, Father Mike Schmitz is one of those people because he just loves everybody.
He's great.
He's not ever going to hate anybody or be a jerk to anybody. Except waitresses. He's super. I don't know if people know this about. I'm only kidding.
I'm like, what?
But you're one of those people, Keith. Like you're. It's. I don't think you care about anything except bringing people to the gospel and bringing people to the sacraments. And I admire that. And thank you for doing it.
Well, it's an honor for me to hear that, man, and to be in any small way associated with you guys. It's just an honor for me. I love the work that you guys all do, and I pray for you guys, and thank you again. And everyone, just make sure you guys continue to keep moving forward, keep striving forward, keep supporting Catholic Answers, and just know there are so many resources out there for you. If you're considering Catholicism, if you're in the midst of that, there's so many things that you can learn, and Catholic Answers is a great place to do that. And no, I'm not like being paid to say that in any way, shape, or form. I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. And Si's the real deal, man. It's been awesome to have you here.
Thank
you,
Keith.
so much, man.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless you too.
Right.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Catholic Feedback with Keith Nestor. Send in your questions or comments to feedback@catholicfeedback.com. Catholic Feedback is brought to you by Stewardship, a Mission of Faith, and our generous supporters on Patreon, locals, and donations through our website. Catholic Feedback is a production of Down to Earth Ministries. For more information or to bring me to your parish or event, please visit our website at downtoearthministry.org. That's down, the number 2, earthministry.org. See you next time.